Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of the Pixar ranking video. If you have not seen part 1, go check it out. And without further ado, let's just get into it.
The last thing you'd want in your Burger King burger is someone's foot fungus.
Number 15 is Finding Dory. I thought this one was a cute and overall pretty nice release from the studio. They expand on the world of the original in a good way. It's a film that feels like a true evolution and progression from the first, where we get to see all of these interesting settings and environments throughout the film. The setting? Great. I like the characters and running gags they introduced too. These sea lions who bully this other lion and stop him from getting on the rock is hilarious. I like this goofy bird that gets distracted easily and has basically no cognitive function. The giant squid chase scene is really well designed and fun to watch. Hank the Octopus is a really well animated and fantastic character to watch. Climax where they're driving the car is really chaotic, very funny, just makes for a great ending. A few things hold this one back, like how Marlin is strangely rude to Dory. Wasn't the entire plot of the first one how he learns he shouldn't be overprotective and anxious like that? It's kind of jarring, especially since this interaction is what causes the plot to unfold in the way that it does. And yeah, Dory getting random flashbacks to move the plot along doesn't make sense. The movie has a hit or miss portrayal of disabilities as well. Destiny and the Beluga are shown to overcome their struggles and find ways to help the group and contribute, which is very nice. But then Dory's memory loss is taken very seriously, despite the fact that it was played for comedy in the original. If you're going to have a film with themes of overcoming adversity in regards to disabled folks, you should probably try and make said disabilities both believable and relatable to the audience, and I just don't get either of these things from Dory. Her as a protagonist in general feels a little bit odd. I wish we got more screen time with Marlin and Nemo in addition to Hank and Dory. It feels like they get sidelined for most of the runtime, and after the first 20 minutes or so, you could honestly write them out of the film. I'm going to give Finding Dory a weak 7. I still like this film a lot. It's grown on me with time. It's a cute, fun film that could be worth checking out.
Potenzone po fratello. Potuzza matato. E tutte le cose che tu sempre da chete. Oppure con
In the number 14 placement, I have Luca. I remember this movie came out on Disney Plus in 2021. I also recall that there were a lot of people who had many things to say about it when it was released, but I feel like people have kind of forgotten about it with time. After revisiting it, I've come to the conclusion that it is, in fact, a good movie. I thought the animation was nice. The character designs I wasn't crazy about, aside from this translucent uncle and this fisherman, but I think that the overall aesthetic is there. The world is very simple. If they are in the water, they turn into fish. But when they're on the land, they are the people. It makes sense. We get to see this explained very naturally, and it's a refreshing, easy to follow idea. Much of the story is very slice of life. We get to watch a friendship develop and become challenged as things around them change and their ideals become compromised. It's handled in a way that is believable, and you really do want them to resolve these problems. The villain isn't some crazy dude. He's just a garden variety jerk. There's a subplot where Luca's parents go out and look for him, and that's pretty fun as well. I will give Luca a middling 7. It's a lot like A Bug's Life, where it's a very steady and easy film to digest, but I don't think there's any real complaints or glaring problems. It's not trying to be some commentary on society or change the history of film. It's just a cute, fun experience.
Welcome to the subfloor.
Of the many brand extensions Pixar has made that no one asked for, I would have to say Monsters University is my personal favorite. Let's get started with the characters. This is a good cast, and I think it's the strongest part of the film. The returning protagonists and Mike and Sully are nice. I love their character development throughout the film. I think Mike is a much more thought-out character in this movie. His journey in learning what he's good at and how he can use those strengths to contribute to his field of work is great. Him finding out that it's okay he can't be successful as a scarer is pretty inspiring as well. He learns that he can use his skill set for something else, and that's really awesome. Sully's characterization is good too. I like watching him learn discipline and develop the integrity and moral compass he's known for on Monsters, Inc. Randall's villain origin story is alright. He's not as fun to watch as he is in the original, and you could probably write him out of the story, but it's a nice touch still. And the fraternity guys are really nice too. I see a lot of people saying these guys are forgettable, and honestly, I could not disagree more. You got Squishy, and he's just a sweet goober of a guy. Art is a silly, goofy dude doing his own thing. Terry with a Y and Terry with an I have some funny scenes and gags. And then you got Don Carlton, mature student. All these characters are just inherently funny and enjoyable to watch. These characters grow close together through their shared experiences and struggles, and it's endearing. Hardscrabble is intimidating and enjoyable to watch. She's kind of like Hopper, except not even close to as glorious. I apologize for tainting your name, Hopper. I love you. The scare games were fun to watch. I like the different settings and challenges they put everyone through. I like the furthering of the lore from the first film, where we get this backstory and discover that there's a science to scaring, and it's not a job everyone is cut out for. That's really cool. The soundtrack is great too. I thought it fit the atmosphere and was bombastic. We get to see a wide variety of monster types that weren't in the first film either. We get aquatic monsters, insectoid monsters, conjoined monsters, you name it. I think the world is developed in all of the right ways, and I like it for that. There's some tension in here that maybe could have been left out, and the liar revealed trope is not good per usual. It's also a retcon of the first film, but not in a terribly bad way. Aside from that, I liked this film quite a bit. I think it's a strong 7, and I would recommend it for fans of the original, though it also works well as a standalone film that would be worth checking out. My choice for number 12 is Coco. I don't want to waste any time with this. The movie is super vibrant. The colors, settings, and music all feel uniquely beautiful and memorable. It has a very fun soundtrack that feels reminiscent of a Disney film, and I think that in many ways it is the most Disney-like Pixar has ever felt. Un Poco Loco is a banger, Remember Me is heartwarming, and all the instrumentals are filled to the brim with personality. Thanks again to Michael Giacchino. We truly do not deserve you. Talking about the story itself, I think the word that comes to mind best is solid. I think the plot is perfectly fine and structured decently, but it does have slow moments that I think could have been sped up or removed. But I'm also conflicting with the idea because it means we wouldn't get to see as much of this beautiful world. Also, the twist villain is great. De La Cruz is everything you've known to love about the archetype of a Pixar bad guy, and it's done very well. I still remember watching the movie for the first time and feeling my heart sink when Hector collapsed onto the floor. It was epic. Also, yeah, Hector's a really well-designed character, not just in terms of how he's animated, which is very fun, but also how the aforementioned twist connects him to Miguel in the climax and falling action of the story. And of course, you knew it was coming. This scene's incredible. Everyone who I've talked to who's seen this film said they cried watching it. I can't put my finger on exactly why I'm the odd one out, but I just never cried watching this one. Maybe I'm too tough for these baby movies. You know what I'm saying, guys? This film is weird. It's going to be a middling 8 for me. A lot of people have this one as one of their best, and I can absolutely see why.
You saved the day again, Woody.
Oh, shut up.
Just outside of the top 10, we have the movie that kicked it off. I don't know what more there is to say about Toy Story. It's such an enduring classic for so many reasons. There's so many tropes of modern animation, which I believe trace directly back to this exact movie. The soundtrack, the characters, the acting, the jokes, the cutting-edge visuals, which despite having aged were considered otherworldly at the time. And using the plastic-looking CGI for a movie about toys is a clever way to work around hardware limitations. Newman does great on the soundtrack. You Got a Friend in Me is iconic at this point and kicks off the film so well. Strange Things is a good song too, and pretty underappreciated. The instrumental cuts are notable as well and deserve recognition. The film introduces us to this awesome cast of characters who are quite funny and infinitely entertaining to watch. The side characters have wonderful banter and individualized personalities, and it's just a joy to watch them go about doing whatever it is they do. There are so many quotable one-liners in this one that you could blindly throw a dart at this script and it would land on a memorable moment. Woody and Buzz make a comedic and dynamic pair. Tom Hanks and Tim Allen give what are arguably their best roles in any movie, and they just work so well together on the script. What I like about this one is the simplicity of its premise and plot. The premise, toys are alive. That's it, that's the whole movie. Nothing more, nothing less. The story is basically as follows. Popular guy gets jealous of a rising star. He does something that gets them both stuck. Then they need to work together to get back home. This was obviously the studio's first feature-length film, so a more basic plot and structure was a good decision. The stakes don't feel particularly high throughout the movie, but it doesn't need to be. I mean, these are toys. They don't need to be saving the world or anything. Existential crises are much more fun to talk about anyways. I give it a strong 8. Toy Story is just a really fun time.
Never mind, guys. It was actually a middling 8 all along. I don't know why I said that. I just kind of made that up. This is my cat.
In a time when animated film is dominated by CGI, Toy Story truly is the godfather of it all, and I think everybody knows to respect it at this point.
Balloony started floating away. I tried to reach out and grab him, but and I never saw Balloony again.
Kicking off the top 10, we get Up. I think this is a great movie. I really do. A bunch of people are saying Up is overrated, but you know what? No, you're overrated. First off, the score is great. Michael Giacchino does it again. He really can't make a bad soundtrack. I mean, this guy. I think the writing is adorable and the characters bounce off one another in a charming way. Russell is a perfect little goober. Doug is a good boy. Kevin has a fun design. The plot itself, not particularly exceptional, though I do like the setting and atmosphere. The film's opening scene precedes itself, and while I wouldn't say it's fair to judge the whole film by the first 15 minutes, it really is not difficult to see why somebody would, as the scene is exceptional. Even so, I think we've yet to talk about the true reason this movie goes from just good to an absolute classic in my eyes, and that is the development of Carl Fredricksen as a character. As much as senior citizens can be entitled and snooty, an aspect of this we often forget is that these people were once young, beautiful, energetic, excited, and caring individuals with bright futures and hopes. But as time piles up, so do regrets and pains. We watch them overtake Carl and we see what they do to him. He is unwilling, uncompromising. We see a character trying as hard as he can to hold on to his own relevance. We see this habit of behavior persist throughout the film until he goes through Ellie's adventure journal and reads that last page. That changes his entire perspective. It's a true Grinch moment. He realizes the fault of his behavior and he does the right thing to go save Russell. And he throws everything at his home out, all of the decor, all the portraits, the keepsakes, the trinkets. He is both literally and metaphorically letting go of his past to ensure a brighter future for others. People are so fast to point to the opening and say that's the best part of the film, but on my most recent viewing, I actually found myself tearing up at this scene and not the first one. The boy we see running out of the theater with a balloon, the man we see ride down a Stairmaster in the morning, and the man we see counting cars on the curb with Russell are all different characters with varying priorities. By the time the credits roll, he's come to the realization that he lived life as he could, and the best thing for him to do is support the next generation with his words and actions. I think this is the best the trope has ever been explored in really any form of media. It doesn't even really come particularly close. It's just so well done. We also get Charles Muntz, the villain. That acts as a counterbalance to this idea. He's also a shockingly competent threat and quite compelling on screen. There are parts here and there that drag, and the dogs are kind of annoying, but this is such a well-designed film with themes and ideas that aren't often expressed as well as they are here. Up is a strong 8, a true classic. Next up, we have Monsters, Inc. This might be one of the most inventive and unique worlds I've ever seen in cinema. It is so cool. I love the idea that monsters are jumping out of children's closets to scare them as a career. It is absurd. It is silly. It is charming. I love the concept very much, and this film does it justice with some of the most memorable running gags, very possibly the funniest movie in the studio's catalog. Billy Crystal and John Goodman give such warm performances. Mike and Sully play off of each other so well, and seeing their relationship come undone is both realistic and painful. You truly do feel for their friendship, and you want to see things work out for them. Waternoose, as an antagonist, is inspired from a writing perspective. Randall does a great job playing the villain for the first 2 acts as well. Both of them have motivations that echo the environment and themes of the film. The soundtrack is way better than it honestly needed to be. It's so jazzy and industrial. It brightens up the setting and themes a great amount. So many bangers on this one. I like the character designs and how varied they can be. I like the moral about joy being stronger than fear. I am giving Monsters Incorporated a strong 8. It is a great movie and as funny as it is clever.
Anti-gravity. Antidepressant? I could put you through to someone on that.
Okay.
In the number 8 spot, we have Inside Out. I love this one so much, you guys. It's so fun. The world is so interesting and cool to explore in how it portrays concepts such as thought, dreams, memories, and imagination. There are an endless number of small details for you to pick out in this one, and it does not fail to impress by any metric. Everything clicks. It is consistently compelling, not only in the way these ideas are presented, but in how they are used to further the plot. The characters are surprisingly fun to watch. At first glance, the 5 main emotions all seem to be one note and stereotypical, but they actually have some great jokes and chemistry, not to mention exceptional casting and wonderful performances across the board. Bing Bong is an absolute GOAT. His sacrifice will not be forgotten. The score is really nice as well. The climax and falling action are both satisfying and powerful. The ethos and moral of the film is not only very important to tell, but is handled with the highest degree of dignity and respect. It's okay to cry. You don't always need to be happy. We feel things for a reason, and we shouldn't be trying to put on a facade all the time. Make yourself vulnerable, find people you trust, and believe that they will be there for you. Yeah, my enjoyment of this one's pretty simple. It's a very basic film, but I think it works in its favor. It's kind of predictable, but there's a comfort in that as well. I think this is a premise that could have gone in a huge tangent, just looping on itself over and over and over again, and I'm grateful it didn't turn out that way, and instead they went in a direction that is relaxed and creative, in addition to being heartwarming and important. Very endearing, super cute. I'm giving this one a weak 9. Like, yeah, Toy Story 2 is better than Toy Story 1. That's not a secret. Everybody already knows that. Oh my gosh, this is a great film. It continues off the first one great and expands upon what it means to be a toy and existential crises. We see Woody faced with this decision where he can choose to go to Tokyo and stay as a relic of the past forever or return home to face potential heartache. It's such a compelling and fully realized dilemma that is executed masterfully. The opening scene is pure magic, and it really captures the imagination of the audience and represents that wonder of parody that I believe Lightyear fell very far short of. Watching the gang cross the road using the traffic cones is actually a very funny scene in concept and in execution. Jessie's flashback to her time with Emily is impactful. Pete's villain arc is subtle and believable. The battle with Zurg on the elevator is exciting and has a great conclusion. Driving the Pizza Planet truck, incredible. There are so many things about this one that just work. It's just relentlessly providing you this endless stream of entertaining and fun ideas and concepts that are executed very well. The film looks perfectly competent 25 years later. The sound design is great. The returning cast is wonderful again. The new cast complements the old cast very well. This movie is a lot like the first in many ways, as once again, I'm not sure what more there is to say about it. Like, we all know it. We all love it. If you think this is the best sequel ever made, I have nothing to say other than I disagree in the most respectful way I can, because this movie does so much right. It's another weak 9 for me, a great continuation of the story in the world, but I do think there is one film in the series that does top it.
Deja vu, I just been in this place before. Higher on the street, and I know it's my time to go.
Yeah, guys, Finding Nemo is strangely incredible. Let's get one thing out of the way before anything else. Potty humor, bad. Fart jokes are not good. Poop jokes are not good. There are a lot more of them than I remember, and it hinders my enjoyment of this film considerably. It is nearly perfect in every other regard. I know that I just said the toilet humor is unfunny, but literally every other joke in this film lands. There are so many parts of this movie that had me laughing out loud and chuckling. Like, Dory is hilarious. She's a comedic gold mine and makes Mater look like a walking funeral in comparison. This meeting of vegan sharks is possibly like the most goofy idea they could have come up with in the studio, and I adore it. The settings are all phenomenal. There are parts of this film that are filled with life and colors. There are other parts of the movie that are drab, dreary, or even empty. The story is very much another example of where they go from point A to point B and wacky hijinks ensue. But there's so much to love about the places that they visit and the characters they run into. It highlights the varied nature of the ocean in such a great way with all of these different places. The soundtrack is even more beautiful too. The soundtrack is so slept on, it's remarkable. Really. Each track is played at the perfect time and place, and I simply love what each one contributes to the atmosphere of the film and the scenes they are in. The story is also great. You have this father-son relationship, and the son who's too sure of himself, and the father who's overprotected, and in being separated, they need to learn the fault of their ways. Nemo with learning about his limits and what he can do, and Marlin with learning to let go and trust the people around him. This accumulates with what might be the most cathartic ending to any film in the catalog. What a movie. This so easily could have been an S-tier film, but some of the jokes really do bring it down a peg. I will give Finding Nemo a weak 9, as I do believe that it is exceptional despite its shortcomings.
Hola hijos de toda su puta perra puta madre, hoy sí ando bien puto perro encabronado con toda la puta verga.
Yep, Toy Story 3 is the premier Toy Story. If you think Toy Story 2 perfectly followed the first one, you will be blown away by how the third entry in the series does it even better. In the second movie, we learn about the impermanence of toys and how things don't last forever. Now we get to see the realization of that truth. It's such a well-made and fun movie with a compelling direction and idea. It's so mature. It knows when to take its time. It knows when to speed along, when to lighten up, when to get serious. It's paced so well. The new cast is all really great. Everyone adds something to this one that just makes it a little bit better. Lotso as a villain is incredible. He's a genuine threat, and his outward charm and appearance makes his prickly character all the more impactful. This guy's straight up evil. Even after being saved by the gang, he just leaves them to die. That is cold. The prison escape is so clever and well designed. It's so much fun to see how they get around the different safeguards and measurements they put in place. Prison escapes in general are really cool, and this movie has one of my personal favorites. Very satisfying and unironically awesome. The incinerator scene is the single most powerful one in the entire franchise, even more so than this movie's ending. Watching all of them struggle to find a way out and quietly accept their fate is genuinely crushing, and then their way out is really creative and fun without feeling jarring or strange coming after such a powerful moment. And of course, this movie has one of the most iconic endings in all of cinema, where Andy leaves his toys to be with Bonnie before heading to college. It may have been ruined by what came after, but on its own, this is a perfect ending to a wonderful film. I don't really like how the rest of the toys don't trust Woody at the start of the film, but honestly, I don't think there are any other problems with this one. It's a week 9. This has to be one of the best of the series. I mean, Toy Story 2 has its fans, but I will always be in this camp.
Good for your soul.
In my eyes, Soul will be the movie that restored Pixar's credibility. Inside Out and Coco were great films, but the former had came out 5 years prior to this, and the latter did not quite reach the same highs as the studio in its prime, at least in my opinion. I remember when Soul came to Disney Plus on Christmas Day in 2020. It was my first Pixar film since Incredibles 2, and my faith in the studio was pretty low. Having gone in with low expectations, they were absolutely shattered. This movie is mature in a way that no other Pixar film is. It's existential, but not in the same way as Toy Story. The Toy Story franchise talks about life and how it relates to death, entropy. But Soul does something else by talking about life as a concept in and of itself, ignoring death, ignoring impermanence.
I feel the need to come on here and clarify because death actually does play a major role in this movie. But what I meant by this is that you could remove the death aspect of it and the emotional weight of the film would still be intact.
This film is about the whys of life, and the answer it gives is cathartic. But we'll get to that later. For now, can we just talk about sound design? Oh my gosh, this movie sounds amazing. Not just the music, which is very atmospheric and perfectly tailored to each environment and scene, but just the small things, like the sound that plays when Jerry opens up the portal to the great beyond.
You're more than welcome to opt out.
Amazing. I love how the two distinct worlds in this movie, Earth and the afterlife, are both given very distinct feelings and sounds to them. The character design is also very satisfying. I feel having a predominantly black cast of characters for the real world is really cool, as it's never really been done in a feature-length animated film, and it shows how far the medium has progressed from menstrualism. The Jerrys and Terrys both have very cool 2D design that allows them to make for cool ways of interacting with their environment, though I wish we got to see more of them doing that. And now we get to the conclusion of this film, the primary purpose, the explanation it gives as to why we are. We are because we are. We don't need to justify our existence. The fact that we exist to begin with is remarkable. Don't worry about the why too much and just enjoy being. We can get so caught up in our ideals and goals that at some point we forget to stop and just live. It's such a powerful and intelligent message, and I think it's very bold of them to go in this direction. Pixar has made films for adults, but none as specifically geared towards them as Soul. Like, I remember thinking Ratatouille was boring as a kid. I can only imagine how fast I would fall asleep trying to watch this at the same age. I've seen this film's ending criticized for being a cop-out and not having Joe enter the great beyond. His acceptance of the end would be powerful for certain, but I actually do think there is a charm to having him go back to live his life with a new perspective. It is less impactful than it would be otherwise, but I think the open-endedness of what Joe does for the rest of his life is thought-provoking as well, so I think it works in its own way. I will give Soul a middling 9. It's one of the most impactful pieces of art the studio has made, and I think it slipped under the radar a bit. Highly recommend this one to any adult.
We're rich. We're the rich.
Starting off with our top three, we have Ratatouille, and I think at this point everyone's come to understand the impact and power of this film. It's a very mature and strong movie, and while I think Soul is better at capturing the imagination and being an impactful story, Ratatouille is the better film overall. As I said earlier, this movie is one that I think is predominantly aimed at an older audience, one that understands the nuances of art and culture, because that's what this film is about. Young talent and the struggles that it faces in finding acceptance and credibility. Remy, as a character, is a dreamer, but he's also cultured and resourceful. He knows his stuff, and that's why you want him to find success. And Linguini is kind of the opposite. He's clumsy, he's awkward, he's not particularly skillful or smart, and he struggles with insignificance like many others do. These diametrically opposite characters being forced into a situation where their goals require the other for them to succeed makes a dynamic that works, and a duo of protagonists that are instantly relatable and likable from the fundamental level. It makes their split feel like a real loss, as if nobody is winning from the situation. I love the subtlety in parts of the script and screenplay too, like how the movie makes jokes about Chef Skinner's height without directly telling the audience. The gag is purely visual, and you wouldn't know that part of his character just by overhearing the movie or reading the script. You have to actually watch the movie. And we haven't even talked about the grim eater himself, Anton Ego. Anton is intimidating and someone you want to earn the respect of, which is made thoroughly clear throughout the film. What makes his role in the story feel important is that we never actually see him live until the second act. He's mentioned earlier in footnotes, but his role in the story is not made clear until then. It makes it so that when he shows up later in the movie, when you've mostly forgotten about him, it ups the stakes and suspense exponentially. And of course, we get his iconic and powerful monologue. It really feels like Brad Bird used this part of the movie to specifically talk to the critics in the audience, the stuck-up tastemakers and professionals who know better. Here we get the line that sticks with me the most of any in the filmography. The average piece of junk is probably more meaningful than our criticism designating it so. I grew up in high school watching video essays and reviews about film and music. It made me want to understand good art and bad art, and understand the difference between the two. It made me want to understand my tastes and how they apply. But in the end, that doesn't matter. What I think about Toy Story 4 and Turning Red and which one is better doesn't actually mean anything. Somewhere out there, those are probably somebody's favorite films, and that's good for them. Art is powerful, and it changes the world in so many ways. And it's good to know that there are people who are enjoying something that I just can't bring myself to. Likely the magnum opus of the studio, Ratatouille gets a middling 9, a very mature and impactful movie that has done a lot for me. Okay. I'm not going to waste your time, and I wouldn't dare waste mine. Both of these films in the top two are just straight up 10s. That being said, we can only have one winner, and the movie that did not quite make it to the top is...
I know.
I see the argument for this being number one, and if I'm being honest, it's probably more deserving. But this was really close. Yeah, The Incredibles is amazing. The banter between these characters alone is remarkable. Their struggles and concerns are all real and portrayed wonderfully. The story following Bob's midlife crisis and wanting to relive his youth with Helen, wanting what's best for the family, Syndrome being revealed as Incrediboy and wanting revenge on the Supers. Violet and Dash have a great dynamic. Frozen is cool, no pun intended. Edna Mode is kind of overrated, honestly, but I still like her. It all works to make a cast that is instantly recognizable and memorable. But the action scenes come in and they just blow your mind. This is choreographed so flawlessly. Every other frame, there's something that has that comic book kind of jump to it, and it just looks amazing. Even with the dated animation, this still manages to look good today, and that is a crowning achievement. And the score. Oh my goodness, the score for this thing. Michael Giacchino, thank you. God bless you, and may the flip side of your pillow be extra cool every night, because you did wonders with this soundtrack. I don't even know what to say about this. Just listen to it. It's practically perfect, but not my favorite. Not quite.
This right here is my favorite thing ever in the history of forever. I think about this every day. I think about this all night long. I stay awake, not sleeping, because I'm thinking about this.
Guys, I am extremely biased. I knew this was going to be number one when I started this. Couldn't change my mind if you tried. I am dead set, in my opinion, that WALL-E is my favorite film from the studio. It starts off with just space and Hello Dolly playing in the background, which immediately gets you in this mindset of wonder and childlike imagination. We see Earth just covered in these piles of browns and ugly mountains of garbage that act as a perfect tonal whiplash from what we just felt. Wally is established to be an eccentric loner with only a pet cricket to keep him company. He's a collector, and he has this fascination with the world that once was, and his love for junk that no one else would care about. He's so infinitely charming. And I haven't even gotten out of the first 10 minutes of the film yet. Genuinely. Like, wow. Yeah, I'm always floored watching this one. It never gets old to me. The romance is cute. The plot has perfect tension. The world is developed and atmospheric. The cast is fun. The soundtrack is great. The pacing is wonderful. The animation is stellar. The acting is nice. The subplots are adorable. The screenplay is catching. The script is short and concise. The message is clear but with enough subtlety. It is ethically smart. I love everything about this. I think The Incredibles is a more structurally consistent movie. But the highs here are so astronomical. But I could not possibly put it above this one in good conscience. I don't even know what more to say. I'm just obtusely biased. I'm sure you guys were probably hoping for a more objectively good film to make the number one spot, but guess what? It's my list, and I get to choose the movie that makes it to number one. Goodbye.
So yeah, that is it. The ranking is as follows. We have all of the A and S tiers filled in now, and we finished up the B tier. As you can see, Turning Red is in the dimension of abstract thought. I don't even know. I don't even want to get into that can of worms. I don't want to think about it anymore. Anyways, that's all. Thank you for watching. Bye.